Welcome to Business Prowess with Raphael and Dr. Andrea. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Raphael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Dr. Andrea Adams Miller is an award-winning international keynote speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of the Red Carpet Connection Publicity, Publishing, and Talent Agency, and CEO of IgniteYourRelationship.com. Known as the Dream Maker, she makes visionaries' dreams come true, bigger than they ever dare to desire.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Andrea Adams Miller here. I am filling in for both me and Sifu Raphael today. Sifu Raphael, unfortunately, had his sister pass away, and he is with his entire family. He's one of many, and they're being all together to celebrate her life. And so we are going to talk today about starting your business brand on the right foot. We have 2 incredible guests. Let me bring them here. We have Timothy Frost and Chris Burns, and he's going to do his there's
my
Chris
walk up.
Burns. Hey, everything works out. He just jumped in on the right foot, and we love that. So I wanted to share a little bit with you guys why we even called the show starting your business brand on the right foot. And there's 2 reasons. So this show for you guys, since you're both new to the show, we do it a little unconventionally. We don't like read through your bios and go through. We just kind of really have a conversation and allow your bios to come out through what we're expressing. But one of the reasons that I wanted to mention it is because Chris is in the world of marketing and digital marketing and helping people start their brand and really starting on the right foot with their business brand. And Timothy Frost, he is a playwright, an actor, and a choreographer. So when you talk about putting out your right foot, you're definitely literally putting out your the right foot. And then, of course, I'm Dr. Andrea Adams Miller. I'm a neuroscientist and international publicity business consultant. And we talk about brand all the time. And I also happen to be an actor as well. And Timothy and I are in a show together right now. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So let's start a little bit with Chris, because I know the least about Chris. We are new to each other. So Chris, kind of give the audience a little bit of a background of you. So as we develop this conversation, they get how the information that's being shared would relate to them in their business.
Yeah, so I've been in marketing for over 20 years. It's been a part of my career in some way, shape, or form, dating back to even high school when it all started for me. And where things got interesting in my career was I worked for an agency, and that's when I knew that I could really elevate my career by going off on my own, being a consultant and a coach. And I kind of just came to this conclusion in my marketing career later on, was that marketing has always been challenging for a lot of people. It's been expensive. It's been confusing and time consuming. And I basically said, look, here's what I do. I make marketing so easy, it's fun again. So easy, you'll have no excuses. Because I believe it doesn't have to be time consuming, expensive, or difficult. And so I've basically changed everything that I do into a coaching program. And I've been on a mission with my coaching background to make sure that I can just educate people. I can demystify some of the myths and some of the concepts out there that are all wrong, and just get people pointed in the right direction. Because whether it's a personal brand or a widget you want to sell or a coaching program, I think that actors, businesses, everyone can benefit from better marketing, just understanding what to do right and maybe what to stop doing.
Well, that's absolutely perfect. Tim, can you share with people about, how you show up, and then maybe relate what you're doing and how that relates to what Chris is talking about? Because certainly actors and playwrights and choreographers need to show up differently as well so that they can advertise themselves.
Oh, absolutely. So in many ways, there's the very common phrase that there's a dime a dozen of me, as an actor, choreographer, what have you, director, even. And even as I'm exploring the realm of collegiate teaching, one of the main phrases that comes out is, "What's my niche? What's my key point that I'm going to be known as or known of?" And so I'm constantly developing ways to be able to both know myself and ways to market how I'm able to communicate to others what I do and why it's important, and why I'm the choice over maybe 10 or 20 other people that might even have the same name as me. And so that's one of the ways that I can definitely relate to what Chris is doing and what we're doing here. For example, within my work and my line of instruction, I'm looking very deeply into shows that relate to the commonality of people today, and not so much what we were seeing in the past of stories and playwrights, but more so what we're seeing nowadays, either being influenced by new demographic or by COVID-19, or by the new waves of society that are coming about, and the ways that we can tell those stories in different avenues. And then along with that, with my educational background and how I'm teaching acting, I'm moving away from using traumatic stories or using harbored feelings of memory that we're told to turn into art, and finding holistic ways that were once used in Eastern meditational practices, and using them to create very healthy atmospheres for actors to thrive in. So that way we can create positive experiences of art versus art out of trauma.
Love it. Love it. Let's talk a little bit about how we're merging this all together. So, one of the conversations I've had with both of you is talking about how publishing shows things together. So, transparency, I have a publishing company, and Chris and I had talked about, just the idea of publishing. He's published in the past, and how publishing can help a business put their foot out there in the right way. And Timothy and I are publishing his new play. So that has been out now a couple times. So Chris, why don't I let you start with that, and why that you have seen a book publishing work for people, and having different products and services available for people to let them see that they show up in the world.
Yeah. So I was having this conversation last night with my father-in-law about our son who wants to play potentially college football, but wants to be at least recruited. And I said, you got two options. You can do what you're doing now, and you can be invisible, or you can choose to be proactive, which in marketing is strategic, and you can be visible. But you have to be your best advocate, because no one's going to do it for you. And as much as this may sound negative, but it's not, I'll bring it back around to a positive. I've always said nobody's looking out for you but you. So if you want to be a famous actor, or you want to be a famous screenplay writer, you have to put yourself out there. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. No one's going to argue with me that she's the best musician in the world. Not even close. Is she good? Yeah, she's a great musician. I'm not going to be the judge of music, for the record. But what is she? She's one hell of a good personal marketer. Now, her performances, I mean, she's in a category with Michael Jackson and other great artists, but that's not the path I want to go down. I want to go down the personal brand path. And so I have this workshop that I do for people, and it's called Your Business Starts with Your Personal Brand. So it's how you show up, whether it's showing up the way Timothy shows up, with that passion and enthusiasm he has for his play and his performances, or it's showing up differently, like, I don't really want to be here, I'm tired. That's also part of your personal brand, whether you like it or not. But to get to your question, Dr. Andrea, is if you want to be successful and you do all those other things, you also have to be your own personal marketer, meaning you have to choose to say, like, look, I probably need to get on some podcasts. I probably need to write a book. And I've written a book a long time ago, so I know that I didn't write a book to make money. I did it for enhanced credibility. I did it to help as a stepping stone to get a little bit further along in my career, to get maybe paid to do some public speaking, to get paid to appear to be on a podcast. And So maybe charge a little bit more in my coaching program so people can say, yeah, you know what, I want to work with him, because if you're really good at what you do and you have that care and passion, sometimes the difference between a successful business and an uber successful business is the difference between you putting yourself out there and being visible, or choosing to say, well, I have a profile. Well, I am on a LinkedIn. You might as well just be invisible if you're not using it and you're not promoting yourself. And so that it's a hard thing for a lot of people to do for many reasons, but we just have to get over that hump and get comfortable in promoting ourselves.
Absolutely. Why don't you share about that, on what your experience has been, Timothy, on how, actors and so forth and playwrights and that ability to, because often in the world, I'll just preface that, we're told that we're braggers, or, people have a negative outlook if you're shining, if your light's really bright.
No, that's definitely a good point. And in many ways, we are seen as bragging and as overconfident, but really, we're more so just following that trend, not trend, I shouldn't say, but that idea of trying to market ourselves, or just trying to be positive and trying to be happy with the gift that we've been given, with the talents that we possess, and with the life that we're cultivating for ourselves. And similar to what Chris was saying about, what kind of brand do you have? Are you displaying to other people that you're here with a pessimistic attitude, or are you here willing to work, willing to be a positive force to be around? And is that what you want to be known as? And I completely agree with that. In many ways, several of us find, and I know we've all worked with those individuals in a multitude of fields, where there's individuals that are there, they're supportive, they want to be bright and shiny, but also give that light to other people, so that way we can all share in the warmth. And then other times there's other individuals that would rather not. And so then we kind of go back and forth with individuals of, maybe I don't want to work with you anymore, but I do want to work with these people. So it really makes a huge difference.
Andrea, I want to mention something too. You mentioned about the light shining bright. A lot of people who are advocating for themselves and kind of doubling down on their personal brand, the vast majority of people are not bragging. They're not doing things to say, "Oh, look at me," or "We're trying to keep up with the Joneses." They're more or less documenting their journey, and they're proud of maybe a couple of awards or accomplishments that they've received for their hard work. And I do believe that the vast majority of your followers will advocate. They'll be happy for you. But there's going to be always, everyone has a couple of them. I call them energy vampires. And these are the people we worry about. We're only worried about these people. There's like 2 or 3 of them we all have. Some are family. And it's like, oh, what are they going to say? We have to get over it, because if, for the most part, if you're doing this with good intentions, I'm just trying to level up my career and level up my brand and grow, and you're not bragging, you are like, maybe you're helping people because you're educating them, which I'm sure Timothy does a lot of. If you just know deep down inside my intentions are good, you don't have to worry about those people, because those people are jealous. They want to bring you down. And that, whether you're in any industry, whether you're posting on Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere else, those are the people that want to bring you down. And the best thing you can do is ignore them, because people hate being ignored. They want you to respond. And that's when you lose. So don't engage.
Yeah. I'm a publicist. So, I always tell everybody, we always have to be, I have a talk called, be your own cheerleader, because, part of being a publicist, it's easier to be a publicist for someone who is, helping me with what they want to be seen and heard, so that I just help elevate them where they're at. And I'm sure you get that, Chris, too. If they're completely flat, we can still do it, and we can do it amazingly, but it's always better if they're playing along, the game is together. And, and this idea that, so me being a publicist, well, of course I'm going to say what I'm doing because that's what I do for a living. It would be crazy for me not to. And, and I think there's a big difference between, going, well, I have, and being like that, and then saying, oh, I'm so excited. I did this, there's, to me, that's different. And so I do sometimes have people, think that I'm too much or whatever, but I'm in a too much society. I actually joked the other day, I'm going to start a too much society. I want to be with people who are too much. I don't want to be with people who are less than.
I love that.
Yeah. So I guess we'll do the too much society there and really show up. So Tim and I are in well, I know I miss Timothy. He right now is choreographer and the lead actor in Cinderella, and I play the evil stepmother, which is funny because I just recently did a show where I was this loving, adorable Peggy who giggles and laughs the whole time, and now I am playing this very evil, nobody loves me stepmother. But it's very fun. She's she's stiff and hard but still lovable, so at least I'm making her that way. And so Tim, how is that for you? Because you're working on your plays, you're in now the lead as well as a choreographer, you're finishing up your master's here, graduating here very soon. How is that managing all these balls?
Uh-huh.
We'll take ball literally, since he's in a ball, since he's the Prince Cinderella.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And on top of that, for anyone who always feels like their world is on top of them, I also work part-time at a senior center where I organize events for community members and teach classes for ballroom with community members as well to the greater community of Findlay. And juggling balls is something that I've become very good at over time. It's taken a lot of practice, and my calendar on my phone is a wonderful tool. Uh, but it's definitely taken a lot of hard work to learn how to say no. No to not only other people, but no to myself. There's so many things and so many ideas that I have and creatively that I want to do, but I realize that I don't have the time and energy to do them all. And so that's when I realized, okay, I have to say no to these different ideas so that way I can make things tier and work with priority and work to the betterment of myself, of my health, of my brand, of what I want to do. Because I still don't want to, I want to make sure that I'm always doing something with fulfillment and purpose of my life without sacrificing those elements. And at the same time, I'm not destroying myself in the process, burning the candle at both ends, we'll say.
Well, since Chris's last name is Burns, let's have you address that.
Yeah, what part specifically? The burnout?
Yes, and how three things: the burnout, tearing things, and the power of no.
Yeah, so let's start with the power of no. I think so often I would get burned out, and every once in a while I look at my calendar and I look at, am I getting to where I want to be by the end of the year? I kind of look at things year to year, compartmentalize. And then when I give the feeling of anxiety or the feeling of no, I'm not trending there, and I don't have the same acceleration that I had last month. It's because I'm saying yes to too much. And so often it's, you're on LinkedIn, Alignable, any platform, you name it. Everybody wants to meet with you. And even if it's a coffee talk, more times than not, 80, 90% of the time, someone has an agenda. They want to sell you something. So not only do I say no, but so often when I respond, and Dr. Andrea, I think I told you this, is that my first response is, hey, just so you know, I've been super busy lately. My business is growing. And because of that, I don't have a lot of time. Very rarely do I take any kind of get to know you coffee calls. I'm curious though, what is it that you wanted to meet about? Were you interested in my services? Did you want to sell me your services or something different? And I'm telling you that approach, people approach meetings with me totally different. Now, I'm nobody special. I'm nobody, no big deal. But I've gotten to a point to where I've been able to put a value on what I think my time is worth. And my time is my greatest resource. I've come to appreciate that more and more these days. So it's not just saying no, but it's about how do you approach these people who want to take your time? Because even if you do give them, how do you manage that and make sure that that 15-minute meeting is a 15-minute meeting and not a 1-hour meeting? The second thing as it relates to the burnout is, and I'll try to make this quick because I can get long-winded. When people get into the burnout hamster wheel or they're approaching it, it is because they don't know exactly what they want. They don't have a vision per se. And I was working with a client who made almost $750,000, and he was successful, but he wanted more. And I asked him, I said, "What do you want?" And he looked around like this. And if it was 10 seconds, it felt like 2 minutes. And I said, "Are you just making this up?" He's like, "Well, I want more downloads and I want more customers and I want more this and more that." And I said, "You don't even know what you want." I said, "Do you have a strategy, a plan?" He said, "No." I said, "You've been able to luck your way this far. If you want to get to where you want to go, you need a vision and you need to be crystal clear with what you want to achieve, not 3 years from now, not 2 years, but this calendar year." And so I've gotten back to the basics with a planner. In fact, my business partner, I created our own personal planner, and it's about stacking daily victories so you can stack weekly victories. If you stack weekly victories, you win the month. And if you win the months, you win the year. And so really, we have to be clear on what we want. We have to be very crystal clear on our goals and have maybe 2 instead of 10. That's a big problem for many of us. And our actions have to map to our ambitions every single day. Because if you win a couple of days and win the week, boy, do you feel good. You get that monkey off your back. You lose that anxiety. And all of a sudden, it now feels like you've got one foot outside the hamster wheel. And so for me, it's just about organization and clarity. And I do a lot of other things like once a month cleaning out my email inboxes, eliminating some junk out of my drawers, and just removing things from my life that prevent distractions so that I can get into deep work. So turning my phone off, Xing out of my inboxes and my social media tabs that are open. Just the one thing that I need to do right now is writing this book. And that's the one thing I'm going to do. And so it's not easy. There's a lot of distractions out there, but I've created an infrastructure for myself that is helping me get there, which as a byproduct eliminates burnout.
Yeah, that's lovely. I'll address a little for that as well, for a burnout and so forth. So, I am a neuroscientist as well as the publicist, and one of the things that I find is best for people is, being able to release some limiting beliefs and emotions that affect how you show up in the world. So it's been such a gift to be able to learn all these different techniques that are literally magic. And so I do stuff for myself. I teach my clients on how to do things for themselves. And yet at the same time, I still invest in coaches. I have several coaches myself. And then I have a partner buddy as well, where we trade off, because sometimes, when you're trying to clear things for your own self, let's face it, we're really good at not only sometimes bullshitting others, but bullshitting ourselves. So today I did a trade-off this morning with a business partner of mine, because there are just some things that were not clear. And I realized that I was getting in my own way for something based on a belief I had that was in the past. And I wasn't getting to the core of it because I, don't want to believe I have that core. And so, he was able to help me get through it, and in 45 minutes, we were able to release it, and you go from to, oh yeah, that's all good. And I love it. It's magic. And when I work with clients and I can help them, it's almost like, wiping the screen, and it's super nice. And, there's some techniques I tell people about, like when we clear our cache in our computer. By the way, now that I'm mentioning this, so some of you all are going to make a little note. Oh, I should probably do that. Clear out your cache in your computer and in your cell phone. And what that means is that our brains do that too. So everything we see, hear, feel, think, function, even things that are in the peripheral over here, we keep an image of all of that stuff, and we don't need it. It's just like our computer. Every time you pull up, Google or something to search things, that image every day of Google where it changes how Google looks, all those images are stored in your computer. Do you need to remember those? Probably not. So you can release them, just like everything that you see in your world, that those are unnecessary things. You can release those things so that we have room for what's necessary. And so doing that release is really, really helpful. So, and so for burnout as well is just the disruption, laughter and so forth. In fact, I'll put up my nonprofit there, the keepsmilingmovement.org, and it's all about the more you smile, the more you change the neuroplasticity of your brain, which allows you to then be resilient and take action. So then you think, feel, and function differently. You behave differently. And when you smile at others, look, you guys started smiling as soon as I started talking about it. So, and we're just going to assume the rest of you who are watching this and listening are just going to smile automatically too. So, Chris, what haven't we shared that you are just like, oh, I want to tell people about?
There's so many things. I mean, I think we can go down two paths. So I've got a leadership business where we talk a lot about burnout. That is one of the big things we talk about, and goal achievement, and then marketing and social media. And the thing that I tell people so often, and I'll stick with marketing because that's where my passion lies, is that most things in life, and this goes back to leadership too, are a lot easier than we make them. The hardest part for many of us is just getting started. And I found that once you start taking action, like me playing guitar, me starting a podcast, I look back, I sucked at guitar for a long time. I look back and listen to my first 4 or 5 podcast episodes, and they were not bad. I mean, they weren't great, but they weren't terrible. I'm also not super proud of them. And then I look back at like episode 15, I'm like, okay, this was much better. And then recently I was like, wow, I'm kind of proud of myself. I think this is pretty good. And you just realize that the more at bats you get, the easier things get. And I think when you attach that to a strategy, because I've found, Andrea, that when I speak on stage, the first question I ask people is like, okay, marketing, who here has a strategy? And I host a local summit, and there's 220 people roughly that come. And literally, there's less than 10 people raise their hand. So if you don't have a strategy in your personal life or with your personal brand or your marketing, why would you expect any results? Just like if you're going to work out and you want to lose weight or get in shape, what's the 1 or 2 things you want to achieve? If you can't put a number on that, you cannot clarify exactly what it is, it won't happen. You need to be very specific. And then how are we going to do it? And how much time am I going to invest every day? And if you're not willing to put the time in to create the plan, it's not worth even thinking about because it will never come to reality. So create a plan and then just start doing it. And you'll find it's actually very easy. No matter what it is, social media, leadership, business, growth, most things in life are pretty simple when you boil it down. And, I have to say that because, and also caveat, I can't do what Tim does, like acting and like music and choreography. That looks really hard to me, and I appreciate the hell out of it. I'm sure to you it's probably easy, but for me to come in and do that, that's very hard. But I'm sure at the end of the day, too, you could make it easy, couldn't you, for somebody?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about that, Tim? Because by the way, he is so graceful on his feet. Just amazing to watch you. And I love the techniques that you incorporate and work with people. Tim choreographs differently than I've ever seen before. And I've been in 75 different shows. So,
Wow.
and I've probably worked with, I don't know, 9 different choreographers over that time because there tends to be some repetition. And I have never seen people do the techniques or ask people the things that you ask them, Timothy. So I'd love for you. Oop, leadership tools is what I said. I don't know if you guys heard me. I saw me blank out. I said, if you could share those leadership skills that you present in helping people, as far as how the questions that you ask of your team.
Oh, absolutely. And I thank you for that. I really do appreciate that insight of and feedback to what you perceive of me. That is a great compliment, and I really do appreciate it. My first and foremost tactic is the approach that I take is always from a sense of an educator and a guidance. I always want to be helping someone move towards the goal or towards something that they can achieve versus something that's in my head that they just have to get to themselves. You know, I don't feel like that's ever going to be a grounds for success, because if I'm even for myself, I've learned over the years that what I expect out of even myself will sometimes never be achievable, because I've learned that what the kind of goals that we can create for ourselves can sometimes be over goal or higher goals than we really give ourselves credit for. And so really taking into account like where people are at, wanting to meet people at their level of learning and their level of skill, but then also seeing their ability level and being able to understand where they can go with the right kind of encouragement is huge. And I think that's what makes a great leader in many ways, is being in the team and not just above the team talking to. And so learning about the team, understanding where they come from, what they do, and how you can best service them to help them grow and elevate them to where they can then thrive is the best way I've learned to help create and inspire any team I've worked with, whether it be within the theater, a theatrical experience, or outside of a theatrical experience. And so for choreography, especially, and especially like with Cinderella for our example, there's many individuals that are learning ballroom dance and a form of waltz that have never danced ballroom before. And ballroom, strictly speaking, in the sense, is where we're dancing as a partnership versus independently, which is two separate dance styles altogether and very complicated to begin with. But therein again I first start by asking individuals to sing through a piece or to talk through a piece, understanding where they're at, what their understanding is of the piece, and what their visions are. And then I create a collective vision board of all of that with my visions in it, with their visions in it, and explain all of that to them so that way they can see what is a possible end goal versus what has to be the end goal. Do you know what I mean? Because if we allow the sense of possibility to an end goal, then we can not only shoot towards the moon, but we might even make it past the moon and go even further than we ever imagined, as long as we don't set a hard and fast stopping point. And I found that to be very helpful as well. And so then as we're working through, we explore ways to use analogies, especially when it comes to dance, to see where what the student understands or what the actor understands, what they've experienced in the past, and how I can interrelate that into the dance setting. So that way it makes the most sense to them versus speaking almost an entirely different language to them. Because as an educator, it's never about the student having to learn how I teach and they have to adapt. It should be, in my opinion, that the teacher has to learn how the student learns and adapting their material for the student.
Great point.
That's a strong teaching philosophy for me.
One of the specific things that I love that you do, Timothy, is this particular show is community theater. So we not only have people at various skill sets, we have people at that have all kinds of different life experience, you know, from people who might have a disability to someone who might be on a different learning style to somebody who might be on the spectrum. And the inclusiveness is very, very beautiful. And so as a teacher, it really is a one-room schoolhouse, because we might have the person who's never been in stage before, and then the person who has professionally performed or whatever, you know, and we're merging all of us together. And but one of the things that you've asked that I think is the best leadership a question for someone to ask is, you had us do something, and then actually I was observing, but I participated. But you said the first question is how do you think that went? And you say it with a smile and flat, like there's no where some teachers go, so how do you think that went? Tim doesn't do that. He
No
goes, so how do you
judgment.
think that went? And he just says it very flat, smooth. He's not overly joyful, but he's just, and allows them and waits. And that pregnant pause for me, I because I like things fast, is like, and he allows them to process it, and then they start sharing, and then they critique themselves. And as a teacher as well, both being in business and have been a former teacher, to see how the people who shine show up, and the people who don't shine also show up. He allows them, everybody, to have a voice, and it's quite remarkable, because then they take ownership of that piece. And I can see that very well in business or with a team and a company, that being very effective. Chris, did you want to address that at all?
Yeah, I thought, Tim, you really nailed that. That was great. I love the concept, and I've always believed this too in my days coaching and teaching youth sports, was that as a leader, you have to adapt to the people. And in any circumstance, I think that's really key. But in a leadership role, though, one of the things that I try to do, whether I'm new, whether I'm working with a client one-on-one, or I'm coaching youth sports, or I'm doing something on a volunteer basis, is I want to make sure that we are aligned, or I like the word coalesced, around a vision. So what is it that we're out to achieve? And what is it that we want to achieve, more importantly, this year? Because a lot of times businesses and organizations start, well, we're going 3 years out and 5 years out. Well, in 5 years at the community theater, most of us won't be here, right? We'll be off doing different things, or we'll have moved or gotten to different activities or had kids. And so we have to then communicate to ensure that every decision we make is aligning with that vision and that goal, those goals. And so I'm really big on asking questions. So I feel like I'm piggybacking off the stuff that Tim talked about. I had read a book, and I've got it over here. It's called The Coaching Habit. And it's a really great book on asking questions. And it's got a framework of, here are the only 7 questions you're ever going to need to ask.
Beautiful.
In every conversation, in every circumstance, particularly the difficult ones, it always starts with a question. And to me, it's taking a lot of us, because I'm an idea guy. It is very easy for me as a marketing standpoint to just get on a call and start spitting out ideas. And this is how you can fix your business, and this is how you can fix your relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's become difficult for me to pause, to ask questions so that I can best understand the circumstance. Because the more information I have, then if there is a recommendation, I can make it. But oftentimes when we just stop, have the pregnant pause, as you said, which I absolutely love, and we allow those other people to think, many times they have the answer. They say, oh, I knew that. I should have thought of that. Or it's like, yeah, you needed someone to ask you a question or two to get you to that point. And that to me is great leadership, is not jumping to conclusions, not jumping to offering solutions, but helping them inch closer to that decision or that answer, whatever it might be. And so to me, a lot of it's about communication, which is mostly around listening and asking questions.
Lovely. Timothy, I wanted you to address your play too, then the one you wrote that recently was performed at the Fort Findlay Playhouse in Findlay, Ohio, and talk about that play a little bit. So, and then we have about 5 minutes left. So if you can maybe keep it to, 1 to 2 minutes to talk about it, that would be great.
Absolutely, and thank you for the time to talk. So the show Finding Home is about a family that ends up having this split apart because of something very traumatic happening in the family. We find that the father of the family is found cheating with the wife's sister, but as it was to save the sister's life from abusive husband by giving her a child that that her husband couldn't do for a number of reasons, it all comes down to a question of, was what he did okay? Was it right? And was him trying to save her life this way okay, morally acceptable, what have you. And so then we see the rift become the family. The mother spirals out in depression and anxiety. We see all the family members split from childhood through up to adulthood. And each one of them finds a place in the world where they feel safe, where they feel they can finally grow, and where they can feel at home. And it's a commentary on today's society in many ways, where the birth family or the blood family is not always the healthiest family that we can be a part of, especially when we have conversations and people say things of the nature that are, well, he's your brother, or, well, she's your mother, so you just have to do it. You just have to be there for them. You just have to muddle through it. No, that's not a healthy relationship. That's not the way we should be working through these relationships. That's not what this is. And ultimately, if we try to do that, this is what it can look like. So that's what this show kind of talks about, and it ultimately has a quote unquote happy ending, by showing that we can grow by finding those healthy outlets and healthy places that might not initially be in the ideal family. And so that's what finding home is ultimately about.
Yeah, it's got some definitely catalysts for a conversation and for change. And there's funny moments intertwined with the trauma drama of it, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I don't believe Timothy was writing it for everybody. I see it as you wrote it for people who have had situations happen in their lives or in the lives of someone that they love or care about, and then how do they deal and manage with it. So someone who has had a really amazing family might marry into a family who's had other trauma in it, and how can they help that person who's now finding their new home deal with the things from the past. And to me, it very relates to business as well. I'm working on a product right now. It's one chapter. I took the one chapter out of a book I'd already been working on for years called The Corporate Kama Sutra, on how business relates to all these crazy business relationships, and took business infidelity out of it. And now I'm really writing about that, where people in business, when your business partner does something that you consider inappropriate, and it may not be illegal, but it's just not in how you feel it should be, or they take money or deflect things, and how businesses just break up, business partnerships. And speaking with so many people, I've heard this come up just quite interestingly. So Chris, how about you? Anything else that you'd like to share or add up? I just realized what time it was.
Yeah, the only thing I'd share is that I'm publishing a book that'll be out in about a week or two. It's called Marketing So Easy It's Fun Again. So I always tell people I don't make a lot of money from it, but if you found anything I had to say interesting and you're looking to make marketing easy, it'll be on Amazon. And it's Marketing So Easy It's Fun Again by Chris Burns.
There you go. And definitely anything you're going to do, I'd love for it to be fun. By the way, I'm Timothy's publicist. I probably should have told you that. So I haven't shared his information here at the bottom, but if you want to get a hold of him, you can get a hold of me, Dr. Andrea Adams Miller at the Red Carpet Connection. For Timothy Frost, if you'd like to see how your theater might take on this production and want to do Finding Home. And he has some other really amazing ideas that he's been sharing with me about writing some other shows as well. And of course, if you need a choreographer or looking for someone to teach some different workshops, those are available. And then Chris, I had shared some of your information here. So I am Chris Burns is who he is. And he also has some up the podcast, The Hustle Leaders, as well. So, and then Sifu Raphael, who couldn't be with us today. Sifu Raphael is amazingly skilled in multiple martial arts, and he consults with businesses to really help them fine-tune their ability to meander through the world in such a way that has amazing precision and discipline. So an amazing man, and he'll be back with us next week. And I'm Dr. Andrea Adams Miller, neuroscientist and international publicity business consultant with the Red Carpet Connection. And you guys have been listening to us on Business Prowess, and we talk today about starting your business brand on the right foot. So thank you so much, guys, for being here with me. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Have a great day. Bye.
Take care.